Today, we're diving into one of the most significant changes to hit real estate in decades. As of August 17th, 2024, new rules have completely reshaped how real estate transactions are handled. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home, especially here in Hawaii, this is going to affect you, so you want to stick around. In this video, I'm going to cover the most frequently asked questions around this topic because I know there's been a lot of misinformation going around. Welcome back to Living in Honolulu, Hawaii. If you're new here, my name is Duke. I'm a real estate broker based in Honolulu, and on this channel, we explore real estate tips and strategies to help you make better decisions about buying, selling, or investing. So, what's changed? First, buyer's agent compensation is no longer automatically offered through the MLS. Second, buyers must now sign a representation agreement with an agent before touring any homes. These changes are a direct result of the National Association of Realtors settlement after a series of lawsuits claimed that the old system kept buyer agent commissions artificially high. According to the terms of the settlement, NAR would no longer create rules that allow listing agents to set compensation for buyer brokers, and offers of compensation would no longer be displayed on the MLS. Let me explain how this used to work. Sellers would typically pay both the listing agent and the buyer's agent from the sale proceeds. The commission was usually split between the two agents, with percentages ranging from 2 to 3%. But now, that compensation isn't guaranteed. Buyers may need to negotiate their agent's fee upfront and potentially pay it out of pocket. These changes stem from the 2023 Sitzer-Burnett lawsuit in Missouri, which accused the NAR and large brokerages of violating antitrust laws by requiring sellers to offer compensation to buyer agents through the MLS. On March 15, 2024, NAR agreed to a settlement, which promised to pay $418 million over the next 4 years and promised to make major changes to the way agents conduct business. Consumers challenged NAR's policies, while the Department of Justice questioned agent compensation and communication practices. The DOJ aims to eliminate listing broker offers to buyer brokers through multiple listing services as part of the NAR settlement agreement. So, what does this mean for buyers? First, you'll need to sign a buyer representation agreement before touring any homes. This ensures that both you and your agent are clear on the terms of representation, including the commission. With these new rules, the buyer might end up covering their agent's commission directly, but that can also be negotiated with the seller as part of the offer. For sellers, you're no longer required to offer buyer agent compensation in the MLS. This might sound like a win at first, but it really depends on your market. Here in Hawaii, where inventory can be tight, offering a commission might make your property more attractive to buyers who are already stretched thin, covering down payments and closing costs. Not offering compensation could reduce the pool of buyers looking at your home, so it's something we need to evaluate together. What about dual agency? Well, with these new changes, you might be thinking about going directly to the listing agent to save on commission. But remember, listing agent works for the seller, not you. Having your own agent, even if you're paying them directly, ensures that you have someone dedicated to protecting your interests. Let's talk about prices. Will this make homes cheaper? Probably not. The biggest drivers of home prices are still supply, demand, interest rates, and construction costs. The shift in buyer agent compensation won't dramatically impact home prices, but it could affect how much buyers need to budget for when purchasing a home. As of this recording, mortgage rates are falling, with the expectation that they will continue to fall further. This may push Oahu home prices higher as more buyers flood back into the market. According to a recent Redfin report, buyers' agent commissions have already started to decrease since the NAR settlement took effect. In fact, even before the settlement, many brokers and agents were exploring alternative commission structures, some of which buyer commissions below the industry average. The reality is, we don't yet know where commissions will settle. It will likely depend on a mix of market conditions, where experienced agents may become more valuable in competitive markets, and the ongoing effort by agents to clearly demonstrate the value they provide to buyers throughout their transaction. I think the amount of commissions will likely not change by much on Oahu. It's just the way in which the buyer agent is compensated that will change. Namely, they can be paid by the seller, listing agent via a traditional co-op model, or the buyer directly. Buyers have never been and are not required to use an agent. Many prefer to use a buyer's agent for negotiation and guidance through the transaction process. These reasons for using a buyer's agent will persist even after settlement changes. This is especially true for first-time home buyers and less experienced buyers. When a buyer signs a representation agreement with me, we'll have the opportunity to negotiate my commission. There isn't a set percentage or dollar amount for the buyer agency. It's negotiable. non-negotiable. When discussing compensation with the buyer, I make it clear that my goal is for the seller to cover my fee. If, for any reason, the seller isn't offering compensation, the buyer will be informed upfront and given the choice to proceed. If the buyer falls in love with the home and the seller isn't offering compensation, they can still submit an offer requesting that the seller covers my commission. If the seller declines, it will then be up to the buyer whether or not they want to continue with the purchase. Yes, sellers can still pay the buyer's agent commission, but they can no longer advertise that fact or the specific amount in their MLS listing. Initially, some agents and brokers saw this change as a reason to look for workarounds, such as posting compensation details on personal or brokerage websites or communicating directly with buyer agents. However, many in the industry are now advising against any form of communication regarding the seller's willingness to pay. As a listing agent, my fiduciary duty is to the seller. Just as I wouldn't proactively tell all the buyer agents in the market that the seller is willing to take a big cut in their asking price, it's generally advised not to advertise that the seller is willing to pay the buyer's agent thousands of dollars in compensation. There are several ways this situation could be handled. The buyer might choose to cover the difference out of pocket. The buyer's agent could decide to waive the remaining portion of the commission. The buyer might negotiate additional concessions from the seller to offset closing costs, bringing up more funds to cover the commission, or the buyer could also talk with their lender about potentially increasing the sale price to accommodate an additional concession from the seller, which could then go toward the down payment, closing costs, or the commission. Additionally, for VA loans, new rules from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs now allow veteran buyers to pay their buyer broker fee directly, something that was previously prohibited under this program. While early reports following the NAR settlement suggested that real estate transactions will become 3% cheaper, a more realistic view has emerged. The decision to offer a buyer's agent commission comes down to a few key considerations. Offering a commission can be seen as a necessary part of completing the sale. In today's challenging market, where affordability is already a major concern, expecting buyers to cover their agent's commission out of pocket may limit the pool of potential buyers. Many buyers are already stretched thin. The down payments and closing costs and additional expenses could be a deal breaker. On the other hand, if you're selling in a high demand, low inventory market, you might feel comfortable holding out for a buyer who is willing and able to pay their agent directly. We've seen, especially during the pandemic's competitive market, buyers who are prepared to offer well above the asking price or provide extra incentives just to secure a property. In such cases, paying the buyer's agent commission may not be necessary. Ultimately, the decision depends on the market conditions and goals for the sale. Under the terms of the NAR settlement, an agent cannot receive compensation for brokerage services that exceeds the amount agreed upon in the representation agreement. So, if we negotiate a lower commission and the seller offers to pay more, the extra amount can either be rebated back to you or factored into the overall purchase negotiation. This ensures that any excess compensation benefits you as the buyer and complies with the new rules. With the recent changes, many industry experts expect dual agency to become more common where it's allowed. However, if the buyer doesn't have their own agent, the listing agent may end up taking on additional responsibilities, such as helping with document flow and managing deadlines, though they won't officially be representing the buyer's interests. This means the buyer would essentially be unrepresented and responsible for handling their own due diligence, like assessing the fair market value of the property, hiring an inspector, and navigating the mortgage approval and closing process. While the agent will still focus on representing your interests, an unrepresented buyer may require more handholding throughout the transaction. This can be controversial, but my firm stance is that we encourage all offers, including buyer's agent compensation, and the seller will review any and all offers and negotiate based on the highest net amount to the seller. One item that is allowed on the MLS is, quote, seller is willing to entertain any all requests you put in your offer. In the end, we're living in a new era of real estate, and while these changes may seem overwhelming at first, they don't have to be. Whether you're a buyer or seller, I'm here to guide you through this process. If you have any questions or want to discuss how these new rules might impact you, don't hesitate to reach out. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with the latest in real estate.